Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the American Renewal here on KYCA Radio and also streaming around the world live on kyca.info as well as our Facebook page. Thanks everybody for joining us on this beautiful Monday in Prescott, Arizona. Jason Zunzaletta sitting in with you for our second week of the renewal. We've got a lot of things that are going to be coming up. We've got things that we are in development of on this radio show. I want to thank Ted Gambogi from the City Council on Thursday and State Representative Selena Bliss Friday for coming in and talking to us about some things. Today, it's just me and your phone calls, 928-541-1016. If you want to talk about what has been the 10th day of the war, and it has been tumultuous on many, many fronts. Other things are happening as well besides the war, but there's tons of things that are happening. Let me see. Yep, that works. We're good. We're good. Yep, the great engineer Andrew adjusted my headphones. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I didn't get a chance. Starting tomorrow, we're going to start incorporating some video clips. First of all, I've got to have some time to get things together. So there is that. And second of all, I've got to have time to get used to what's going on in the news out there, folks. We are trying to do what we can to renew our country. And right now, this also means being in the middle of a fairly hot war. Now, if you were tuning in or if you were checking your stocks and your bonds and your oil and gold last night, things were not in good shape. The market futures at one point were down several hundred points, almost 1,000 points at one time for the Dow Industrials. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average traded fairly negative for most of the day today, into the hundreds down. And at one point last night in the commodity futures on the New York Mercantile Exchange, oil for both West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude, both were up more than $20 a barrel. Then came, of course, about half an hour before the markets closed, about an hour before the stock market closed, President Trump. And President Trump basically said, I think the war is almost over. Well, that's the gist of what he said. They have destroyed the Navy. They've destroyed the Air Force. They've destroyed most of the missiles. They've destroyed most of the things that are, most of the drones, the places that they're building drones. We know that they're trying to find the enriched uranium that the Iranians are trying to build into a weapons grade of uranium. And if they do that, they can manufacture bombs, but they've got to have the facilities to do it beyond some barn out back of Ahmed's, farm or something. So that's being bombed. They're all being bombed. And upon the news of that, the stock markets and the commodity markets went utterly insane in the opposite direction. Closed today. Let me take a look here. The stock markets today, let me get the indices here. According to my figures here from investing.com, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 239 points today at the end to close at 47,740. The S&P 500 gained nearly 56 points. The NASDAQ was up over 308 points. On the commodity futures, which are just beginning to open now for the overnight trading, West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up 32 cents a barrel at $85.14. That is nearly a $30 drop from its highest trading point earlier today. It is the biggest drop in the history of oil prices. Brent oil is up about $1.33 a barrel right now at $90.33 a barrel. Natural gas is up just a fraction, basically about 2.5 cents. And gold is down about $6.79 an ounce at $5,141. Silver is up about 4.5 cents at $87.40 an ounce. So, does this mean that the war is over? I mean, we're not obviously over yet. We've got a long way to go. And, we've got to also follow Israel's lead to some extent. We've got to coordinate. We've got to figure out what's going on. Now, this is our war, obviously. But you begin to think that you hear the naysayers, you hear the people who are screaming about this and complaining. Okay, we have lost people. They have lost people. No doubt about it. War is ugly. It is not clean. There are going to be casualties. But also remember World War II. Millions upon millions upon millions who died. And also think about what was sacrificed in order so that many people could live. the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If those had not happened, the United States and the Allies would have had to invade Japan, and they would have fought to a great extent, much more. Millions lived who otherwise may have died in an invasion. And what are we doing now? We do not know the casualty count on the Iranian side. Obviously, it's probably in the hundreds, if not the thousands. But also, for a great extent, those casualties lie within the government, the military. Very few civilians have passed. There are rumors that one of the attacks from the United States was the hit on the school, and that perhaps 150 to 200 people died in that hit. It's obviously not something we want to do. But unfortunately, in war, things happen. Things happen that are horrible. On the American side, we have several injuries. We have 7 deaths of service people. But also, at this point, if you count the Austin terrorist attack last weekend that claimed 2 lives and wounded a couple of dozen others, and then you look at some of the people who have been hurt in the protests and things, for the most part, we've managed to get through this war so far fairly clean, fairly without much injury at this point. That could change at any time, and we know this. We understand this. We understand that there is the possibility of terrorist attacks here, abroad, in Israel, in Europe. It could happen anywhere. We understand that. But also, we've lived with that for, 50 plus years, as Islamic extremists were making threats, killing Americans, killing Europeans, killing Israelis, doing all of that over the last 50 years. And for the most part, we didn't do much about it. And when we did, we kind of screwed it up. We should have been finished. We should have really gone after those terrorists that were in Pakistan and Afghanistan after 9/11. We did not. We started to nation build. That wasn't good. Perhaps we never should have gone into Iraq at all. There's a large debate over that one, and that certainly seems like a bad miscalculation on our part. Okay, Saddam Hussein's gone. Okay, that's fine. But what have we got in return? What happened? In the end, war is a terrible thing. It's something that hopefully we never have to resort to. But at this point, things look like they are beginning to be positive. They have been since the beginning. We have to we have to understand, and we have to rely on our administration that they know what they're doing. And unlike the ham-handed Biden administration that was going after social justice and all the rest of this stuff and calling the greatest threat to us white supremacy, believe it or not, look at where the world is now. Once again, Trump is here. We have respect, whether it is fear or not, as allies. We have respect. And hopefully we're being taken seriously in that if the government, if the president, if somebody says that they're going to do something or that they expect something, it's going to happen. It's happening right now. And so we have to be very happy with what's going on. Nobody wants a war. Nobody wants it to come to a conflict. Iran was given many chances. In fact, 47 years worth of chances. Instead, Hamas, Hezbollah, all, basically came down on Israel. We had terrorist attacks across the country, across the world, I mean. 9/11 happened. You can't tell me that ISIS was not at least part of this or inspired by this, by Iran, or funded in part. And, so when it comes right down to it, we fight this right now in order so that a regime that doesn't need a nuclear bomb doesn't get one. And that has been the bugaboo for the past 20 years, really. Could Iran develop a nuclear weapon? I think we were at that point to say, yes, they could. And yes, they were. And perhaps the strike last year that was the bunker-busting strike by the B-2s during the 12 Days War wasn't enough to finish the job. No surprise there. Let's face it. Iran is a big country. They've been doing this for a long time. Surely that was just not yet. But here we are, 10 days in, and so far it seems that things are in a positive state. There is plenty of uncertainty, and with the fog of war, anything can happen. As I said before, I'll say it again. Keep your head on a swivel. Think situational awareness at all times. Look out for each other, and especially if you're traveling abroad, look out for each other as well. And hopefully we're going to come out of the end of this with a far better world, far more peaceful world, okay? I want to thank, first of all, our first sponsor. That's Hampton Funeral Home. He joined up. Butch joined up last week. Thanks, Butch. Appreciate it. Good for our first sponsor. We got many more coming up. And also, we've got plenty more to talk about today. And I wish I had a video of this. We'll have to bring it in tomorrow that Representative Quang Nguyen sent out on X today. The Virginia Assembly has gone berserk with some of their stuff, and now they're talking about a gun control bill. And in explaining this, I will show this tomorrow if you haven't already looked it up. In explaining this, it is quite obvious that I'm not quite sure that the person talking about guns and what they are has ever seen a gun outside of a movie, has certainly never handled one, and not quite sure he could spell it. But, I mean, obviously he could spell it. But obviously there are people out there who have no idea what a gun is or how it operates or how it works, but they're trying to ban it anyway. Why? Because that's just what you do when you're a Democrat or a leftist or a liberal. You don't like something, you're going to ban it. Why don't you like it? I've been told not to like it. I'm not supposed to like it, so we're going to ban it for everybody. You know, it just gets tiresome after a while. Well, there's more to come, including a very interesting article, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit, from the American Greatness blog concerning unconditional surrender. It's a new concept for most of the people who are alive now, but the greatest generation and the baby boomers, yeah, they can tell you about it, and they can tell you why it's a good thing. So real quick, we're going to take our first break. We've got callers on the line, so stay with us. And if you want to call in and weigh in, how do you think it's going? What do you think's going to happen? Where does this end with us? Good or bad? Where does it end with us? What happens with Iran, the United States, long-term, short-term effects? Give us your opinion. Call in 928-541-1016. Much more to come on the American Renewal. More after this. Okay, we're back on the American Renewal. Jason Zenzaletta back with you here at the studios of KYCA 928-541-1016. Love to hear your opinion on what's happening 10 days into the conflict, the war, whatever you want to call it. Let's have Lynn on line one call on in. Lynn, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good so far.
So that was my question. I'm referring to it as a conflict versus a war.
Okay.
And so that's kind of my thought process on it. A war, I'm from the Vietnam War era.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
I kind of term war a little bit different. And then also, of course, we had the Gulf War after 9/11. And I'm kind of terming this more of a conflict.
You know, when you talk semantics, I mean, you are technically correct. I think it's certainly just a conflict. Obviously, not a declared war.
No,
Um,
not yet.
I will tell you this. This is interesting. It just popped into my head when you were saying this. I remember the TV coverage. You remember the first Gulf War, 35
Uh-huh.
years ago now, I think. And
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry I said that out loud. That
Yeah.
kind of dates us here, you know. Um, I remember we were my family was a CBS family, so we were watching Dan Rather and that type of thing, and Walter Cronkite.
Uh-huh.
And the first night, it was Showdown in the Gulf was the what was going on. My dad, who was a Korean War veteran, threw a fit. We are not in a showdown. We are not in this. We are kicking his butt, and that means it's a war. And so actually, CBS did change that the next day by about noon. It became the war in the Gulf. Now, that was a little separate thing. There was a 500,000 troops on the move from the Allies
Uh-huh.
against division upon division of tanks and aircraft and all sorts of different things. And it was a war, undeclared war, but it was a war that lasted in the hot terms, I think, about 45 days before the ground war started, and that was the 100-hour war that
Uh-huh.
happened there. Um,
Yeah.
so, Lynn, you know, you've got a good point. I mean, we're it's
It's been
almost as
something I've been debating with myself, and I thought I'd kind of refer to this one more as a conflict,
it's
just
it's
for me.
almost it's almost as if it's spanking for a temper tantrum here.
Yeah. Well,
Although
we've had 47 years of the temper tantrum.
yeah, 47 years of a nation and a group of people, not a nation. I take that back. The Persian people of Iran are wonderful people, and they want
Yeah.
freedom just as much as we do.
A lot of people have died already
Yep, tens of thousands, as I understand.
before we even got there.
Yep, in protesters, and
Yes.
I have something else to say about that in a minute. But I'll tell you, we are there just like we have been in a lot of other places, perhaps in a way fighting for freedom. Now, we are fighting for the freedom from a nation that should not have nuclear weapons to have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, it's my opinion. You can tell me what you think, Lynn. I have a feeling that if they had developed a nuke, they would have already used it.
Uh-huh.
That
I agree.
when we're talking about their own survival at this point, which is what it is. I mean, this is a nation whose leadership is getting decimated. I think they're down to the third string now, and some of them are from the A League at this point, coming up and trying to be a leader. And there was a report earlier today that the new Ayatollah, which is the son of the first Ayatollah but not the second Ayatollah, apparently got wounded in one attack. That's what we've heard from the Mossad, possibly. So, I battle, which whatever you want to call it, a conflict, a police action, whatever. I hate to say war is war, and people get hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think you're
Well, you
right,
can call it whatever you like. That's just something that I've been mulling.
and I think you have a very good point. Um, and I think technically terms, obviously, it's not one. But I think we're all in the same boat that we say, uh, hopefully that's as far as it's going to go, and we're going to be done soon.
Oh, I pray that every day.
Yep, I think we all do. And
Thank you.
hey, Lynn, thank you for calling, and you can call anytime. Okay.
Yes,
You
sir.
want to
God
talk
bless
some?
you. Bye.
You want to talk semantics or whatever? You call me. Okay.
Well, I was just dating. I was just kind of throwing it around. It wasn't to
I,
criticize anybody because everybody can kind of have their own thought process of it. But I just been calling it a conflict.
well, it's a great opinion, and I appreciate it very much, Lynn. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye. Now, anybody who wants to call in, you can weigh in on this 928-541-1016. And how do you think it's going? Where do you think we're going to be? It's hard to see into the future where things are going so quickly. I mean, things happen so fast, um, and we've gotten used to this over the past year with Donald Trump. But now, I mean, you're seeing things happening at lightning speed as it does whenever you do have a conflict. I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take a break because there's a couple of things I do want to mention very quickly. Well, I'm going to have to look up some of this. There's an interesting story concerning the Iranian women's soccer team down in Australia. That's been an interesting thing that's going on, and now there is some movement finally that we may have a resolution on this. Also, as I said, I want to talk to you about an article concerning unconditional surrender. We've got more of that coming up here on the American Renewal. Of course, your calls, 928-541-1016. And as always, according to the rules, if you're a Democrat or a leftist, you go to the front of the line. I want to hear what you have to say as well. Okay, we'll be back after this. Okay, we're back here on the KYCA show, Renewal. I accidentally said KYCA PM almost. That's what's coming up at 4 o'clock. Okay, but very basically, there was a very interesting story concerning the Australian, I'm sorry, not the Australian, the Iranian women's national soccer team that was playing in Australia. And I was trying to find the story on this. Apparently, they played a few days ago. Some of them were kind of protesting or not acting as they were supposed to, and according to the Iranian regime. And they sought asylum in Australia, and there was some question as to whether Australia was going to take them or accept it or send them back home. Well, apparently, the latest that we have heard is that President Trump has offered asylum at the U.S. Embassy and has offered the asylum of the United States, which is what you're supposed to do when you're in a conflict, war, or whatever. People who are seeking freedom and ask for asylum, that is the way you ask for and receive asylum, to be quite honest. Okay, 928-541-1016, that is our phone call, our phone number, and you're welcome to weigh in. I'd like to know how you think the conflict is going, where you think it's going to end up, and perhaps even how long. I mean, it's hard to say. But I think for us, we hope that the casualties are few on all sides. We hope that order is restored and that we have a very fast and firm friend in a new Republic of Iran in the Middle East. One that is hopefully at least a republic of some sort or a democracy where people are in charge. And if we have a British system, if we have an American system, whatever system they choose, whatever they want to run, as long as it is something that helps them grow, helps them join the regular world in terms of being on a positive spin upward for men and women. We know how women have been repressed in Iran under the Islamic regime. And that story very quickly from PJ Media. This comes from Sarah Anderson. The Iranian women's soccer team stood up during their national anthem before their match with South Korea at the Asia Cup and refused to sing the regime's national anthem. Some seemed nervous, some smiled, some seemed to fight back tears. And apparently, according to all of this, the team was eliminated from the tournament on Sunday after losing to the Philippines. And so apparently they were supposed to return home at that point. So their biggest advocate, Donald Trump, who made a public plea to the Australian Prime Minister on Monday morning asking him to help the women. Trump also said that if Australia refuses, the United States will allow them to come here. So that's where it stands right now. No complete resolution just yet, but that's where it stands right now. So, as we said, we're hoping that this kind of wraps up. I mean, obviously, 10 days in, and Iran is a big country. Remember, the air war against Iraq and occupied Kuwait took 45 days for them to get to the point that a ground invasion was feasible against Iraq. And there were a lot of things to take out. Scud emplacements and missiles, anti-aircraft, radar, command and control, special areas within Iraq that were government and intelligence and things. There's a long, long list. And obviously we're doing everything we can. We know that they have employed the B-2 bombers over there. There is an incredible video, we showed that last week, of a B-2 buzzing one of the carriers out in the Gulf, and that was fantastic. The B-1s have been used now, and now B-52s are being brought into to bear. And this is the game changer. The B-52, even though it's 60-plus years old, is one of the great platforms of all time. And let me tell you, between what they can carry, what they can drop, and the fact that they are a scary airplane to watch coming in. Okay, I'll tell you this. I was 10 years old, and we were out on the farm in Illinois. And it was going to be a very big deal in town that a B-52 was going to do a flyover over an event in our small town. Well, I can't remember why, but for some reason we couldn't go. So we thought from several miles away, maybe we can see just a little bit. We could see it come over or whatever. It ended up the flight path went right over our heads, and it made the turn after passing over the town right over the farm. We got up close and personal look at a B-52. It was awesome. It was something. I will never forget that. So anyway, what is the aim of the United States in this war besides eliminating the nuclear capability? Part of it is a little bit in terms of responding with Israel and Operation Roaring Lion as a response to the October 7th attacks. When you look at what happened to Israel, some people call it their 9/11. No, it's not. It isn't. Not at all. 9/11 was nothing compared to what the Israelis suffered per capita on October 7th. If it had happened here, if 9/11 had been the equivalent of what happened on October 7th had happened on 9/11 per capita here, we would have lost something on the order of 50,000 people instead of 3,000, and we would have had hundreds of people held hostage. Imagine that. Imagine that here in the United States. That's what they suffered. But throw that in with 9/11. Hamas, who was at the behest of Iran, I think you will look back in history and you will say, Hamas and Iran and the rest of their proxies perhaps made the biggest miscalculation of all time by committing the October 7th atrocities and the attack on Israel. They woke a sleeping giant like none other. Israel was willing to prosecute the 12 Days War last year. We joined in at the end. And now here we are, hopefully ridding the world of one of the all-time worst terrorist regimes that we've ever seen outside of World War II and, of course, the Axis powers. And so what does unconditional surrender mean? Well, there's an article, if you want to look it up, it's a long one, written by Roger Kimball for the American Greatness blog. Unconditional surrender when wars are fought to win. And he's absolutely right on the opening of this, where he quotes Vladimir Lenin, who said, "There are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen." And that certainly has been the case the past few weeks, and perhaps, honestly, from the beginning of the Trump administration. You have to look at what we are thinking about doing here, and nothing short of an unconditional surrender of the government of Iran will do on this. There's a reason for it. What if we come to an armistice? We have done this in the past, at the end of World War I. We came to an armistice with Germany. Germany, battered, broken, defeated, turned around and within just a few short years, came this close to world domination. Probably they never would have completely won, but they certainly could have fought to a stalemate had they concentrated on the Western Front instead of going after Russia until later in the war. All that aside, if you leave the current government in any way, shape, or form still in charge in Iran in any way, we're going to be back where we started, perhaps sooner rather than later. And the next time, it's not going to be so easy to defeat them, because I can guarantee you if they have a shot at making a nuclear weapon, they're going to bury this thing in the mountains in eastern Iran, so far down that we will not see it, we will not know it, and we will not understand that they have this until they announce it by destroying Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or some other city in the Mideast. We won't even know at that point. Until then. And then when that does happen, that opens up a Pandora's box, the likes of which none of us really want to open ever again. Not if we can help it, and certainly not. And of course, we're going to be exhausting every possibility before that does happen. Yes, there were plenty of people calling for a nuclear response after 9/11. I think we can thank our lucky stars that it didn't happen, that cooler heads prevailed. Same thing in the Gulf War in 1991 on the second day, when Iraq started throwing scuds at Israel, trying to goad them into an attack. The fact that Israel did not respond in a nuclear or other unconventional mean perhaps saved the world. There's been several opportunities for any of the great powers to use nuclear weapons where they did not, thank God. And the only thing I think we can hope for is that it won't happen. But the problem becomes one of these people like North Korea, one of these countries like North Korea, Iran, a few others. All they want is one bomb, or all they want is a few, because they know what will happen if they set something off. We will respond massively. Their country will cease to exist. And perhaps, especially if you read the book by Annie, I think it was Annie Jacobson, called Nuclear War, a Scenario, which came out last year, you learn that practically any time, in practically any scenario where a single nuclear weapon is used against the United States or otherwise, almost any scenario ends in an all-out nuclear conflict. And that is a horrible, horrible thought to project. I'm hoping that one of these days, this is on my wish list, that we'll have Annie on the air with us. She has done quite a few interviews. She's great. She is a great interviewer and an incredibly intelligent person, having written many books, and Nuclear War, a Scenario was her latest one. Well thought out, well researched, and one of the scariest books I've ever written. We hope it doesn't come to this. And that is why we are doing what we're doing over there right now. Okay, We're going to take another break here on the American Renewal. Thanks for joining us. 928-541-1016. We've got more to discuss that's happening on the home front as well as here in Arizona. It's never boring in Arizona, that's for sure. We'll be back with more right after this. Hey, we're back here on the American Renewal radio broadcast and podcast as well. Jason Zinzaletta sitting in on this gorgeous Monday in Prescott, Arizona. Headline from the Babylon Bee. Iran boasts it has destroyed hundreds of U.S. missiles with its buildings. Congratulations, Iran, for helping to disarm the Americans and winning the war here. Iran has destroyed hundreds of our U.S. missiles by making sure that they hit their buildings. Well, that's just fantastic, I'll tell you. This news earlier today was very interesting as well, and this brings us to Arizona and what's going on in this state. The FBI is expanding its criminal probe into suspected election irregularities by secretly obtaining a large cache of voting records from Maricopa County. Sources who spoke to Just the News because of the secrecy of the grand jury probe said FBI agents have received gigabytes of electronic election data from Maricopa County about a month after the Bureau first disclosed an investigation into election irregularities by raiding a warehouse near Atlanta and seizing ballots from the 2020 election conducted in Fulton County. The subpoena comes 5 years after the GOP-led Arizona State Senate conducted a lengthy investigation into the 2020 election and concluded there were significant irregularities. And now records have been seized down in Maricopa County, the biggest county in the state in terms of population, and hopefully something is going to come of this. As some people have stated, okay, this is wonderful, this is great news. We've heard this many times before. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been put in jail for election irregularities, for election fraud, for anything like that. And so there's kind of a distrust out there, and I'm afraid to say that I see it as well, that, okay, the government is saying that there's problems with the election. That's nice. The government has said, excuse me, the government has said that they're going to do something about it. They're going to do something about it. And yet nobody gets arrested. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody really gets punished, and we move on. Folks, from the SAVE Act all the way down to the state and to our county and to our cities and every election, if we have fraud, irregularities, or problems in our election, our country is gone, and it will be sooner rather than later. And if they had truly gotten it done as much as they could have in 2024 and Kamala Harris had won, we would have already been done anyway, and this would be a moot thing. Because of course there would be no fraud. Of course there would be no things. Don't you trust elections? Yet it's racist to suggest otherwise. How dare you? How dare you even suggest that an election might have a problem? Really? Well, now there's plenty of questions, thank goodness. And also, I do believe that we heard from Chuck Schumer, who in 1996 said it would be a wonderful thing if everybody had an election would be able to use an ID so that there would be no fraud. 30 years later, heck with that. And he said there will be no passage of the SAVE Act. This is the act that 80% of Americans across the board want, which would require citizenship proof in order to register and an ID card in order to vote. And it was Schumer, I think, and there have been others who have said a big condition to this and a big condition to funding of the DHS and ICE is that ICE agents must not be allowed near polling places. Okay. So I guess that begs the question. Why would they be there in the first place if illegals can't vote? Why would illegals be at a polling place if they're not supposed to vote? Why on earth is this a problem? And I think we know the answer to that. Because there is a group of people in this country who wish to defraud the American people and win, because it is the only way they can win. When your campaign consists of "I hate Donald Trump," and that's all that you have when it comes down to it, you're not going to get very far. You need a little help. And so that's where these irregularities show up. And I'm going to tell you something else, folks. And this goes to you, me, and everybody else. In the end, this is our fault. You're not going to want to hear that. You're not going to want to hear it. That's not exactly what we were supposed to do. But folks, this is our fault. This is my fault. This is your fault. This is everybody's fault that's listening. Because it is incumbent upon all of us to take responsibility, not only for our own actions, but for the furtherance of this country, for the furtherance of our way of life, for the furtherance of our rights and our liberties. It's on all of us. It's all of our responsibilities to continue this on. And it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you fall on. We are Americans. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And now we've let things go. We've looked the other way. Surely if we can we can go along to get along. Surely the fraud isn't that bad. Surely the fraud isn't that widespread. Surely we can take care of this. And the more we uncover from California, Minnesota, Ohio, other places, the more monetary fraud, the more election fraud. Every time we uncover something, there's more. There's more than we can possibly imagine. Perhaps we have lost the country. Perhaps it is unable to be reformed. Perhaps it is to the point that it is beyond the point of no return. Certainly it seems like that in 4 years' time, if a Democrat wins in 2028, it's over. It's done. And most of the deep staters, and I'm going to tell you, this is not a matter of Republican versus Democrat. This is American versus the anti-American. The one who defrauds the country and doesn't care, defrauds the taxpayers, and fine, give me more. The one who does not want the rabble, the normal people, to be able to vote or affect an election, to be able to affect who gets into office and where power lies, that is. Maybe it's too much. Maybe we were overly naive. I just don't see how we can change everything in 2 years' time. Donald Trump and his administration's giving it their best. And it's probably not enough. And especially if the midterms go towards the Democrats in November. Then we're down to months and days, not years. And after that, who knows? We have to have faith in our country. We have to have faith in the fact that we have a chance at all of this. And yes, Corruption and problems have happened from the very beginning of time. It's not a uniquely American thing. It's not unique to the last 250 years. But it's such a scale that the point that I think it was very interesting to see Elon Musk, who said something, I don't know if it was to Joe Rogan or not, but he was asked, if you had free reign over the government based on what Doge has already found, what could you do? And he said, we could reduce the government by 60% and cut the budget in half without any problems. That level of potentially fraud, corruption, waste, you name it, it's hard to recover from. How do we do it when we're talking trillions of dollars? We've got to give it our best, but folks, it's on all of us from the local level on up. Okay, last break very quickly, and then we're going to finish up the show today. 928-541-1016. Back after this. Hey, folks, we're back on the American Renewal. It's our last segment. We've only got a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and bring Ellie in real quick because we do have just a couple of minutes left. Ellie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. You sound really good. I'm encouraged listening to you. I just was thinking about what about God, because we really are dependent on him now, and I believe that Donald Trump got elected from answer a prayer, and it's never too late. We can pray, and He loves us, and He has mercy on our country. So we've had instances of miracles. I've been healed of cancer. I felt it leave when people prayed for me, and I know God is real. He loves us. So if we would just turn to God, I can't do anything else. I vote all the time, but it's twisted. Somebody is doing wrong.
Yeah. Well, let's face it, if you look at it from a Christian perspective, we are in a fallen world.
Yes.
And yes, I'll tell you, there are a lot of people who looked upon the election of Trump and said that was a miracle. That should not have happened. And yet it did. And I'm saying good people who looked at it and said, I just can hardly believe this, but it happened. I think we were all in a state of disbelief for a couple of
I
months
was,
there,
yes.
you know. But
Even though I prayed my hardest, and I know a lot of my friends were praying, my church was praying, not just for him to be elected, but to have God have mercy on our country, because we are backslidden. We are not like when my parents were alive and young. It was different. And so some things happened. We've let God be second, and our prosperity and our everything that we hold dear, our traditions and whatnot, that needs to come underneath God.
well, prayers for our country, our servicemen, our
Yes.
fellow citizens are never a bad thing.
It's the answer. If you read the Bible, you know it's the answer.
Yep.
When all else fails, try God, and He comes through every time.
I certainly agree with that one. So,
Thank you.
All right, Ellie, thank you very much, and we're down to the last few seconds. Thanks
You're
for calling
welcome.
in.
Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, you bet. Hey, we've got more coming up, and we've got more things that are going to be happening on this show, folks. Honestly, we're going to be bringing in video and audio. I've already been talking to a couple of potential guests who are going to be adding to a great conversation that we're having here. And guess what? Dad jokes. Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, we've got dad jokes. Somebody gave me this, and I'm not going to say why they gave it to me. It's just that it's good. Emergency dad jokes. Shall we have one? We've got a minute left. We need to end on a lighter note today. Okay, I'm going to pick one at random here. We've got a whole pack of these because this will last us for at least a couple of shows, let me tell you. What do you think, Andrew? Should I pick one? Okay, your opinion doesn't matter anyway. Did you hear about the guy that evaporated? He'll be missed. We need a drum roll on this. Okay. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this was a good start to your week. More on the American Renewal coming up tomorrow at this time. And, of course, this evening, you'll hear the American Renewal at 5:27, as you do every weekday evening at 5:27, and every weekday morning at 7:10 here on KYCA. My friends, be strong, stand firm, and be aware of what is going on around us. But you know what? We're going to get through this. Our country has faced many bad and good things, and in the end, hopefully, it's more of a positive than anything else. That's the best we can do. And we wish you a wonderful Monday afternoon. Stay with us. KYCA PM is coming up shortly. Back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with the American Renewal.